Nice. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to kick off the first kind of series of sessions after the keynotes. And we're going to spend the next hour talking about the future of Clio and all of the things that Jack has announced this morning. We're going to spend some time digging into that a little bit, talk about, give you some more details, and also give you some more information around how we've developed those features and how we develop product at Clio. Before that, I'd love to start off with some introductions. My name is Mik Lernout. I'm the VP of Product at Clio, which means I run the product design and management teams. And basically means that I spend most of my time thinking about you, thinking about how can we build valuable experiences for you, and how can we make sure that those experiences are really easy to use. I joined Clio 8 months ago. It's my kind of first ClioCon. Who in the room is it the first ClioCon as well? Oh, no, holy crap, that's a lot of people. Awesome, so we're sharing this kind of journey. So I've been with Clio for 8 months. Before that, I worked at a bunch of different companies. I'm actually an engineer by trade. This is my first role in the legal industry, or my first job at a company in the legal industry, and it's been fascinating to learn more about that. Before that, I worked at a company called Hootsuite, and before that at a company called Dell, and I've always spent a lot of time thinking about how can we help organizations, how can we help different types of companies like law firms, how we can help them build meaningful and rewarding relationships with their clients. So everything we're doing at Clio is incredibly exciting to me.
And I'm Jeff Rambharack. I'm the Director of Product Management for the Clio Managed product. I've been at Clio for about 15 months now. I've been a career product manager, so if you're curious about product management, feel free. We can chat afterwards. I can tell you about the discipline. But what my job is really is to understand what you need to succeed with your work. So I really care and really enjoy interacting with customers. I've done that throughout my whole career. I started at Microsoft working on PowerPoint as a product manager. Most recently, before Clio, I was at Amazon working on AWS. And I've worked on a few different B2B software products as well. But it's been really, really exciting to join Clio and to learn more about this industry, to get to know a lot of the customers, like you folks in the room, and to see this product and to participate in shaping the future of it.
Awesome. Oh, I should probably get this out of the way. The accent is Belgian. So if you're trying to figure that out, there you go. Awesome. So love to pick it up a little bit from where Jack, pick up the conversation from where Jack started this morning. As you know, the mission of Clio is to transform the practice of law for good. And the way that we think about that is the way that we're going to achieve that mission is by listening to you. So you'll see our teams, Jeff, me, like all of the other product teams at Clio, we spend an enormous amount of time listening to you, listening to firms that are innovating, they're doing great things in like changing the way that we're looking at the legal industry, changing the way that services are being delivered. And that's where we believe the real innovation comes from. And so one thing that you'll hear a bit through our presentation today is we're going to show you how some of the things that we've announced this morning and that we've developed, actually all of those ideas came from you. And I think that's going to be a big kind of call to action later as well, because we'd love to hear more of those ideas, because that's what's going to drive the future of Clio. We've also, maybe just to talk a little bit, like one of the questions I get a lot of the product managers get at Clio is trying to figure out, like, how do you actually get that information? How do you listen? And we have all of these different ways of listening to our customers and listening to the industry. We obviously have our legal trends reports, and we just launched a new one, the 2019 version today, which is this incredible study that gives us all of this data on how our customers and how our lawyers and how our consumers perceiving the legal industry and working and being effective inside of that. We actually have our teams we do a lot of interviews and we do a lot of surveys. So we'll have, like our teams will do multiple conversations every week, talking to customers, trying to figure out what are they trying to do inside of their firm. And we'll do really broad surveys as well to learn more so we can build great products. We also get a lot of direct feedback from you. We get direct feedback through our support channels. We get direct feedback through, we send out our own NPS, Net Promoter Score surveys as well. So we get a lot of feedback from you from those channels as well. And all of those are collected and are things that we look at every day. And then we also track the way that you're using the product. So we actually anonymize all of that data, but we can look at trends. And you see some of the things that were announced this morning were actually based on some of the insights in the legal trends report in particular, were based on some of the data that we see around how you're interacting with the products and how can we make those interactions even better. And then just to, as a final point, this conference is this huge opportunity for us to go and listen to you even more. And so we'll talk later a little bit about some of the venues and some of the places that we were specifically set up to listen to you, where you can go and engage with our product team, give us new ideas, give us feedback around our existing features. But actually, if you find me and Jeff in the hallway, or you find anybody from our product team anywhere in the hallway, like, please share. Like, we want to learn from you, and that's how we're going to be building the next generation and the future of Clio. One model that Jack announced this morning is this new way that we have of thinking about firms, and we call it a law firm maturity model. And it tries to encapsulate a couple of things that we've been working on for the last couple of years. And it's really trying to figure out what are, like, of the firms that are out there in the legal industry, what's their maturity from a client experience and from a firm performance perspective. We found that those two axes best express what a real thriving firm could look like. And we take it extremely seriously to discover kind of as our job, how do we get firms from one of those bottom quadrants into the right top quadrants? How can we help you become a thriving firm? And one of the things that we obviously have to do there, again, is yet listen. Like, we love to listen firms that are in that quadrant already, see what they're doing, what are they doing differently compared to other firms, but also find out, like, learn more from the firms in those bottom quadrants to figure out how can we help them, what are they trying to do or what's not working to improve their client experience and their firm performance. So I think the way that we thought about some of the product announcements that we're making today, and the way that we think about product in a really big way, is kind of these three pillars, we call them. So there's obviously client experience and firm performance, and I talked a little bit before about how foundational that is and how we think about the future of firms. But we also have legal productivity. Like, we know that even just before you can think about becoming a really high-performing firm and before you can think about client experiences, we want to make sure that you're not wasting your time. Like, you're actually spending your time productively and effectively. And that's an area that we invest in quite a bit. So what I'll do is I'll spend a bit of time going through these different tiers, talk about some of the features that were announced this morning, and we'll give you a bit of an overview on where those features came from and give you some more details as well. I'm going to start with legal productivity. So legal productivity is one of our three pillars. It's kind of this foundational pillar. Like, one thing that we talk about a lot is we think about the last 10 years at Clio, and Clio has been around for 10 years now, as kind of building this legal productivity toolbox. We call it a legal OS, or legal operating system. It's what we think makes firms stick. It's these really essential building blocks, like being able to bill, your calendar, being able to communicate with your clients, your contact list, being able to get paid, like these really foundational elements that you need to be able to run a productive firm. And that's basically the foundation that we're building on. And one thing I love to call out, we'll talk a lot about firm performance and we'll talk a lot about client experience, but we're not losing track of legal productivity. We know that's the core of how to become an effective law firm, and we know that there's actually work for us still to do there. To give you an idea a little bit of the scale, so over the last year, we've helped firms manage 2 million matters inside of Clio, which is just a staggering number. That's the amount of, thinking about the amount of work that goes underneath those matters, the amount of hours that are being spent on those cases, all being managed inside of Clio, and all of this productivity that we've helped with. And I'm super excited today to be able to talk about our new mobile app. This is an app that we've been working on for the last year, and for us it firmly fits into what we call legal productivity. We know that about 85% of lawyers spends at least an hour a day on their mobile device to be able to do their work. And I'd actually love maybe like a show of hands. I'm sure there's a lot of people here that are using the Clio app or using their mobile device right now while they're at ClioCon to still keep track of what's going on with their firm. Like how many people are using their mobile app for that? Love to get a show of hands. Nice. It looks like about 50% or so. That's awesome. So we know how essential this mobile experience is, and we think it's only going to grow. And we think it fits really closely with productivity, because people, our days are starting to become more and more unstructured. We have all of this travel time in between appointments. We have time where we're picking up our kids from school. Like all of those times, there's times there that we can use to become more productive. And we think the mobile app or like our mobile experience fills that particular gap and allows you to be more productive. So super excited to introduce the new mobile app. This is pretty much from the ground up rebuild of our mobile experience. We know that our old mobile app that we had out for a number of years, it was a great app, a lot of people got a lot of value out of it, but it also had some challenges. There were certain things, certain interactions that were actually fairly hard to use. I know people ran into performance issues. And so we decided about a year ago, or a year and a half ago now, to rebuild the mobile app from scratch. And one thing that I love to maybe spend some time on, because I think Jack already spent quite a bit of time on the mobile app itself, is I'd love to talk a little bit about how we got there. So last year at ClioCon, at the Clio Cloud Conference, we launched our beta. And the beta process is something that we use where we basically take functionality, take something like our new mobile app, and we release it to a small section of our customers. So we have these customers, and we know that they've asked for maybe feature requests or they've had issues with our old mobile experiences, and we give them access to this new experience, and we allow them to give us feedback, direct feedback, because that's the feedback that we need to be able to create a great new experience. So we had 1,000 feedback comments. We had about almost 100 feature requests that were discovered by our customers over the last year that we incorporated. And these could be really small things. Some of these are big feature requests, but some of them could be really small but really, really annoying. One of the feature requests that we got is inside of our old calendar, you wouldn't be able to, inside of a calendar appointment, when you would have an address, you wouldn't be able to open up your Maps app and be able to find directions to the appointment you're going to. And so that's a piece of feedback that we got. And that's then something that we actually deployed inside of our new beta app, in our new mobile app, and that's now released to everybody. So that's the kind of feedback and the type of interaction on how we build, that's how we build product, that's how we love to build product. And again, it's all rooted in getting your feedback and listening to you. So mobile app is available today. I think we released it somewhere overnight, so I think a lot of you probably already have the new version. If you don't have the new version or you don't have the mobile app at all, I would love maybe after our session for you to download the app. It's actually a pretty amazing experience, and it's a really good complementary experience to your core Clio usage. Awesome.
So Mik talked a lot about the three pillars that we're really targeting and trying to focus on here, and how important productivity is. We know that we still want to deliver the tools that you need to be productive at your work, to improve your productivity at your firms. And one part of productivity I wanted to talk about is specifically how you can improve the productivity of the work that you're doing. So one thing that we launched this year was NonBillable Time, and I'll talk about the origin story for that, why we targeted this feature, and some of the impact that it's having on our customers already. So Mik talked about 2 million matters in manage. That's a huge amount of matters that are going through the Clio system. And along with those, we know that there are 40 million time entries that have been created in the last year alone. So that sounds like a lot. 40 million is a huge number. But what we know as well is that this only represents a very small slice of the time that people are spending doing legal work. And as we've talked with our customers over the years, we've started to dig in and learn where all the rest of that time going and what some of the challenges with that are. This is something that you've seen probably from our legal trends report, data that's very familiar now across the industry, where we know that if you take an 8-hour workday as a standard workday, Only 2.5 hours in that day are billable on average. And so we've talked about this missing 5.5 hours, and a lot of our customers tell us a lot about some of the challenges with that time. A lot of our firms and lawyers and legal professionals that we talk to would love to get that 2.5 up, and they have a target in mind, but it's very hard to reach because they actually don't get that much visibility into what happens the other 5.5. So with non-billable time, what we're really trying to do is solve that challenge. We're trying to give firms a way to track all of the non-billable work that they're doing so that they can get that insight into where that other 5.5 hours are going, and then hopefully increase the productivity of the work they're doing and drive up the billables for the firms that are tracking their work that way. This will be a very familiar experience to the folks here. This is a matter dashboard for a standard type of matter. And what you're used to seeing is just the amount of billable time that's been worked on the matter. So here we see the 6.4 hours worth about $1,920. But historically, you haven't been able to track the non-billable work alongside the billable work that you've been doing. And then similarly, when you do want to add time, adding billable time is something that's very familiar to the folks here. So here we have 30 minutes as an interval, and that's worth about $300 for this example. So one change that we've done that really simplifies this is adding a checkbox to track things that are non-billable. So for any time entry that you do, we have folks using this both in billable and flat fee types of matters. If you're doing a billable matter, then you can have a default that's billable. And if there's non-billable work that you want to capture as well, all you have to do is check that box, and then we'll mark these matters and track them as non-billable time. If you work in a flat fee model, we've actually had a lot of firms starting to use this, where the default is that the time entries that folks are tracking against the matter are non-billable, and then if there is billable work that you want to do, people end up doing that as well. It's very easy to just separate and categorize the work you're doing. So here we see we're marking this time entry as a non-billable time entry. And this now becomes part of your Clio experience for this matter. We go back to the matter dashboard, and this is where you can see the difference, where we're now tracking both the billable and the non-billable time. We've got the 6.4 billable hours that we had before, plus the 0.5 non-billable hours. So for firms that are really trying to track the budgets, basically the amount of time that they're spending on their matters really, really carefully and get the overall picture, this has been a really powerful difference for them. They can see the entire picture and get an understanding of where that time is going. The feedback has been great, and actually the adoption has been much higher than we initially anticipated. So we launched this in August, and there's already been over 1 million non-billable time entries going through Clio. We also found that if you take just the billable matters that people have worked on and started tracking the non-billable time for, the amount of work the value of that amount of work that people are tracking is over $3.5 million. So firms now have insight into that much of their work that they weren't tracking previously. This quote was great. Like, I think a couple of things that stand out for some of the customers that are using this are really the at-a-glance view on each given day. They can actually see where the time is going on a day, plus the overall picture for the matter, where they can figure out where that administrative work time is going and what they can do to optimize that ultimately. One thing that you might do over the conference is go to the keynote speech by Daniel Pink later on in the conference, and he's going to be talking about the hidden pattern in the day. There's some really interesting insights there about where people are productive in the day, what times are going to work best for certain types of activities, and that's going to be a really powerful keynote. I think it relates to this. Like, I think when you think about the time that you're spending in the day, and not only the amount of time, but when you spend that time, we're hoping that something like non-billable time can actually help you capture that, and then figure out the best pattern that'll work for you ultimately to drive your productivity even more or enable you to run your work the way that you would like to.
Awesome. And so, while Jeff went over non-billable time, I'd love to talk a little bit about some of the worst non-billable time, which is, I think, you chasing clients on outstanding invoices, outstanding bills, mailing them, reminding them. Like, there's an enormous time suck there. And that's something that we want to do something about. And so we're, over a couple of weeks ago, like about a month ago, we launched Outstanding Balances. I'd love to give you a bit of an overview of that. So maybe just real quick, these are some stats coming from our LTR. Roughly 85% of balances are actually collected. That's the collection rate that is standard across the industry. And a couple of years ago, we launched Clio Payments. And we actually see when people use Clio Payments, we see that those invoices are the invoices that are sent out, about 57% of them get paid within 24 hours, which was a really great success in terms of increasing that collection rate for all of our customers and the people who are using Clio Payments. And if you're not using Clio Payments right now, I would really encourage you to do so, because even just impact on collection rates can be really, really huge. But while we had that success within those first 24 hours, what we tried to figure out next was trying to figure out the rest of the percentage, like the 43% that will not be collected within those 24 hours. How can we make sure that we create a better experience around that? And so that's what the new outstanding balances functionality is. Let me just zoom in here a little bit. So inside of the bill section, inside of Clio, you have a new tab now called Outstanding Balances. And by the way, it's available to everybody right now. And it basically gives you a list of all of its outstanding balances, all of the clients that you have that have an outstanding balance with you. And listed by kind of worst offender. And so at the very top here, we can see Brian. Brian has an outstanding balance of about $4,200. You can see the last time that we shared a bill with him. You can see the newest bill's due date, which is actually in 29 days. And you can see the last time that he's paid, which was on the 15th of October. Now, Brian paid just fairly recently, about a week ago. Try to imagine thinking a couple of weeks in the future, maybe Brian still has not paid. He still has this outstanding balance that we want to remind him of. What you can do now inside of outstanding balances is you have the share button on the left there. Hit the share button, and you can craft an email to Brian to remind him of his outstanding balance. Pick the contacts, this is a share model that should be fairly familiar with you. And what happens now is we will now send out this beautiful mail to Brian. And Brian will basically see a list of all of the invoices that still have an outstanding balance on them, see how much he owes on each of those individually, but also see his total outstanding balance. And then for the customers or for people that are using Clio Payments as well, we have an embedded Pay Online Now button that allows Brian to be able to settle that outstanding balance really, really quickly. And you can see Brian can choose to settle the complete amount. Oh, sorry, let me go back there. Brian can choose to settle the complete amount or just part of that amount, and if he does just a partial payment, that will be applied to the oldest bills first. So again, super convenient workflow, and we're really trying to take that experience of how do we take all of this effort that's going into reminding customers, reminding clients of their outstanding balances, and how do we create an experience that makes that really, really easy, not just for you, but also for the clients to be able to get ahead of. Our feedback has been incredible. So the first 2 weeks that we've released the feature, about 7,000 outstanding balances were shared. And actually, in the last month, there was about $2 million that were collected on behalf of our clients through the outstanding balance share function. And that's $2 million that a large proportion of them probably would have never been collected. And making this a really, really convenient way of increasing, made this really, really easy way of being able to collect these outstanding balances has had a huge impact on our customers. And I love this particular quote. It's kind of rare that you have these quotes that do, when you build these types of products or you think about these products, this is the type of ideal scenario you're thinking of, is having Lori here send out an outstanding balance share with one of their clients, getting paid within 10 minutes, which is just really, really cool, really beautiful. Awesome.
So bringing it back to the law firm maturity model that Mik showed earlier, we want to really help firms move towards that thriving quadrant. And this is something that Jack talked about in his keynote, and also introduced this new concept for performance, and an exciting announcement that we have for that. This is something that I care a lot about, and over the conversations that I've had with customers over the last year and a bit that have been at Clio, this has been a really big theme. We've done all of this great work over time to become what we would call the system of record, or the operating system for law firms. And then with things like non-billable time, we're even doing more to store all of the data, basically, that's pertaining to the matters that you work on. And so what a lot of firms started to talk to us about was trying to get some insight back out of that data. A lot of them were doing great things with the reports and getting some insights out of the reports. But then some of the firms started to get really creative and innovative by exporting the data, creating pivot tables, charts, whatever they needed to do to actually track the KPI that meant the most to them as firms. So what we're announcing now is the firm dashboard. This is a really exciting launch for us where we're trying to bring actually just all of those insights that people were looking for directly into the product based on the data that you're already working with and putting into Clio. And the reason we were doing this, so we know that firms have really ambitious goals and they're really meaningful for you and your firms. We know that over 80% of you are looking to grow your revenue and increase the efficiency of your firms, and increasingly trying to do things like improving the client care and satisfaction that you're delivering. At the same time, there are challenges with this. So I guess quick show of hands, how many of you have been trying to pursue at least one of these three goals that we have marked here, either growing your revenue, increasing your efficiency, or improving your client care? And so this is most of the room. Almost all of you are trying to pursue a goal like this. And then maybe just another quick pulse check or show of hands, how many of you feel like you have the tools that you need to measure your success against these goals in order to achieve them? So almost no hands. And that's why this challenge was so meaningful to us and why we saw so much of an opportunity for us to deliver this. Only 23% of folks that we've surveyed through the Legal Trends Report said that they had the tools that they needed to measure their performance and success against these goals. So to help you with this specifically, this challenge where over 3/4 of you want to achieve these goals, want to perform at this level, but don't feel like you have the tools that you need to measure your performance, we've launched the Firm Performance Dashboard. This is the dashboard that we're launching, and I'm going to walk you through the different components of what you're seeing here. The first thing you're going to see is that we've brought these key performance indicators right into the product. So we've talked actually for a number of years now about things like utilization rates, realization rates, and collections rates. So here, this is the overview of the key KPI. You can see what your overall firm utilization rate is. Where this is really powerful, a lot of firms actually just don't know what their utilization rate is. People have targets. They want to increase their utilization. They want to increase their billables to get to their quotas. But it's actually kind of difficult without this kind of insight from Clio to get to that conclusion or understand how you're performing. So what we're doing here is helping you benchmark your own performance. And you can actually see just the trend even year over year for that key performance indicator to see if you're getting better or worse as a firm at your utilization. Another really key part of this dashboard that we're launching is trending. So when we talk to every firm, we heard this as a resounding thing, where the benchmark is fine, but they really wanted to know, am I getting better or worse month to month? Or are there problems that I should be identifying, diagnosing, and ultimately trying to solve for my firm? So here, just to put a narrative behind this, and this is something that we commonly see with the firms that we've talked to, we see a firm that had a utilization rate at 27%, so it's not great. It's not at the level that they'd like it to be at. And we see that it's sort of sustained. Like it's not that they're getting necessarily better or worse, but it's not at the level that they want, so they'd like to drive that up. And what I want to talk about is actually some of the things that we're hearing from customers about what they're doing with this data, the real powers and the insight that you get and the actions you can take. So there's a call to action here. If you have this low utilization rate, you could start to dig and find out, why aren't I being more productive with the time that we're working? So something really familiar to you would be the activities table, but I think we've unleashed a little bit more power here, and we're hearing firms that are starting to use the non-billable time to look for the administrative tasks. So in this activities table here, you can see some examples where the legal professionals at this firm are spending significant time on admin tasks like scheduling consultations or troubleshooting IT problems. And we hear this all the time. We know that folks that could be doing billable work or more productive work are getting caught up in these tasks. As a firm, then you have options. You can think about, what would I do differently with this information? So there are things you could do to try to offload some of these things from your timekeepers, basically, at your firm. You could try to hire an IT consultant to deal with the IT issues that are coming up. Or for client scheduling, you could try to figure out an easier way to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later as well. Similarly, realization is another one of those key performance indicators that we've talked about. So this is the amount of work that you've actually done that goes onto the bill. And similarly, you can see the overall key performance indicator here. So this firm is doing okay. They've got a realization rate of 71%. But again, the trending ends up being really powerful. So here we see the trend for this firm, and what we see is actually a decaying realization rate. This is something that we've heard a lot about happening for different firms, but it took us a while to actually understand and for these firms to understand what was going on. What we found, a lot of firms talked about this fear that clients wouldn't pay. And as a result of this, there's a behavior that develops where if you're afraid that the client's not going to pay, you actually start to write more and more of your work off, just to make it easier for them to get there. This is something that we want to help you with. So if you have this insight and you have that kind of concern that clients aren't going to be able to pay you, we have tools in the product. So payment plans are a great way to deal with this. This allows your clients to pay you in installments. So if your clients have cash flow issues, for example, and a lot of them are responsible clients. They want to pay you. They actually have access to the resources, but cash flow month to month actually could just be a concern for a lot of clients. Payment plans make it really, really easy to be able to pay this way, and then that can alleviate that fear, so you don't have to write off quite as much of the work that you've been doing. And then the last KPI that I was going to talk about, and we've talked about this a lot over the years, is the collections rate. So overall in the industry, we know that only 85 cents on the dollar effectively get collected. And that's deeply concerning because we know that all of you are working so hard, and then at the end of the day, ultimately just getting paid for like 85% of it. That's something that we know we definitely want to help you with and see if we could drive that up. So looking at the collections dashboard, here we see a firm that has an interesting pattern. Their overall KPI, or the collections rate for them, is fairly high. 79% is not that far off of the average. It's not quite above the average. But they are, there's money left to be collected. It's money on the table that they should be getting. And we see an interesting trend. So we see a firm that actually had a fairly high sustained collections rate, and it's only recently just started to taper off. So we can see the uncollected amount also trending upwards. So there's a disturbing pattern there that they might want to dig into. And in this firm's case, something that we hear a lot of the time is that we just took on a really high-profile client and we're doing some really valuable or expensive matters with this client. And in this case, what we might hear and what we've heard from a number of firms is that these high-profile clients, while they have good access to resources and good credit and everything like that, sometimes they just aren't paying on time. And this has a huge impact on the bottom line for firms. Like, this is affecting your cash flow and all of the goals that you're trying to achieve for yourselves as firms. So going back to our outstanding balances feature that we talked about launching, this is a really powerful feature for helping you with these types of problems. Here we can see that there's some disproportionate clients. There are folks that owe you a lot more than others. If we look at this first firm on the list here, Ackroyd & Sons, they haven't paid all year, basically. And this is not unheard of. A lot of firms have told us that they have clients that have a relationship like that with them. And all they often need is just a nudge. Like sending a reminder of exactly what you do owe, along with some sometimes stern text about their responsibility to pay, basically, is a lot of the time all the clients need actually to pay up on the balance. So this is a preview of where we're going. It's a very exciting new direction for us to get deeper into firm performance. It's something we want to learn a ton about. I would really love for you to grab me or to come to the Clio Lab. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. And give us this feedback. Tell us what kinds of goals you're working towards as firms, how you measure your own performance, and what types of tools you need. And we know that this is a start, this is not an end. So something we're going to be focusing on over the next phase is actually providing much deeper insights into how you're performing, the ability to drill down into some of this data, and even better connection with the tools that you can use then using this data to improve your practice.
Awesome. So we spent some time talking about legal productivity. Can we help you become more productive? I think there's so much there that we could do. Then we talked about firm performance and the new firm dashboard and how it can help you measure your performance, which is kind of the root of being able to improve it. And we gave you a bunch of tactics on what those improvements could look like and how can you help you there. But we know that's what's really key to becoming a true thriving firm is to also deliver a great client experience. And this is something Jack spent a lot of time on this morning at the keynote. We actually spent an enormous amount of time thinking about at Clio, to the degree where we really believe that for the next, kind of our vision for the next 10 years is all around how do we help firms deliver modern, great, effortless client experiences to their clients. And today, we're announcing the Clio Scheduler. which is really focused on taking a really, really important step in the client experience and making that really smooth, effortless, and actually highly efficient for you as well. So this is a statistic that comes from our LTR, like our legal trends report of 2019. It says that 42% of consumers stop shopping if they like the first lawyer they speak with. And so there's a couple of things here to kind of zoom into. So it's obviously it's a large percentage that is basically convinced by those very first interactions. But one thing that I'd love to kind of point out is the first lawyer that they speak with. Like I think what consumers want and what clients want, or one way to read this, is they really want to have a meaningful interaction with you. They want to have a meaningful interaction to see, are you actually the person that they can build a relationship with, that they can trust with their particular case and with their particular matter. And they want to get to that moment of that real meaningful interaction as fast as possible. And we know that some of those existing methods, like thinking about that very, very initial experience, like often it looks like this. I think Jack quoted this morning, like up to 8 emails being sent around to be able to book that initial appointment. And what's interesting about that, that's not just a lot of effort and a lot of lack of efficiency and productivity for you and for your team, but it's incredibly annoying for your clients. Like you're taking this moment that should be this really impactful moment of that first conversation, and you're just delaying that, and you're diffusing it, and you're disempowering it. And so that's something that we really wanted to solve. Like, how do we take that very initial interaction, and how do we make that smooth and effortless? And it was kind of interesting looking at other industries to see how other people are doing this. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of a foodie. I love going to restaurants. The idea of me now calling or emailing or like interacting with restaurants to be able to book a particular appointment is a huge turnoff for me. Like, it's not the type of interaction that I want to have. I want to be able to book my reservation. I want to be for that to be effortless and seamless. And I would spend all of my energy on eating great food and having a great experience in the restaurant and getting there as quickly as possible. It's true with Uber as well, like thinking about being like wanting transportation and actually spending quite a bit of energy and time waiting on the phone for some agent to pick you up to give you like half useful information on when your cab is going to arrive. Like, it's just a terrible experience. I just want to get where I want to go, and Uber delivers that to me. And that's exactly the experience that we want to deliver in Clio Scheduler. Maybe actually, before I walk through the feature, maybe another kind of quick show of hands, who here has kind of appointment setting capability on their website right now, like gives their clients the ability to book right now? Just a few hands. That's great. So I think we feel this is an incredibly valuable experience for our clients. It's taking that very initial engagement, that very initial interaction, and making it so easy. And let me just walk you what it looks like. And it's almost like using Uber. It's almost like using OpenTable. So you go to your client or your potential client or your future client is probably doing their own research. Maybe they got a referral from somebody else, or they got your name from somebody else. Maybe they're Googling. Maybe they're using a tool like Avo or a product like Avo. They land on your website. This is your property. And what we can do now with Clio Scheduler is you're able to embed this Book Now button at the bottom. And Book Now brings you to this really simple experience where, as a client, I just want to meet Adam. Like, I want to have a conversation with him. I want to see if he can help me with my needs. And what I can do, so I click Book Now. I can pick the date that works for me. I can pick the time that is convenient to me. And I can schedule my appointment with him. And maybe just to peel away kind of what's happening here, that entire interaction that you're seeing is actually all driven by Clio. So it's all driven by your Clio calendar, by your availability inside of your calendar. All of these time slots that you see on the screen right now, they would go away if somebody books an appointment, or if you book in another appointment in your calendar that would conflict with those slots. We automatically remove those in line, which is an amazing experience. So as a client, I found my dates, I found my time. This is when I'm going to talk to Adam. And then we do some basic intake. Like we ask some questions, like who are you, what is the matter, which particular case can we help you with, what are the questions that you have, so we can make sure that we're prepared for that initial appointment. And I think to some degree also give trust that we're listening to our clients. And then we confirm the appointment. So at this point, kind of under the hood, what will happen is we'll send, so the client sees this particular confirmation screen. They'll get an email. In that email, it's a really nice email. It will lay out kind of this view, all of the details of their particular experience. And we'll maybe do some questions in a minute. Is that good? Awesome. So you see all of the details. They actually also will have a calendar attachment, so they can quickly add it to their own calendar, and they will also have the ability to reschedule or to cancel their appointment straight from that email. And again, the rescheduling uses the exact same Clio calendar we talked about, so it's only going to make slots available that you have chosen to be available. This is what it looks like from your side. So we have a client that maybe it's like a Sunday night that it's booked a particular appointment, and when Adam is now opening up his calendar, he will just see that appointment pop in right inside of the Clio managed calendar with all of the details pertaining to the case related to it. Again, rescheduling, canceling, all of that will be automatically synced with this calendar as well. And then in Clio Grow, we'll actually see that particular matter and that client pop up in our pipeline, because we know that that's going to be a potential new client for us. And actually all of the details, again, all of the intake details will be locked inside of this matter and inside of this client, and you'll be able to take through the pipeline as you go and meet with this potential new client and as they become an actual client for your firm. So this has been a really, really fun experience to work on. It's like taking this kind of big client journey that we have, really focusing on that initial interaction, because we know there's so much friction in that initial interaction, and creating this really simple, kind of beautiful experience for your clients that's completely seamless. Like think about all of that work that you're spending right now, emailing, like maybe your staff is taking calls, is spending all this time just booking time, and we're removing all of that on your behalf and on your client's behalf and creating this really, really simple experience. It's been really fun. Like this is one of the features that we've also had a select group of customers use that were interested in this type of functionality, and they've been using this for a few months now, and it's been great. Like the feedback that we get is exactly what we wanted to do, is try to reduce all of this effort reduce all of this effort that is happening and try to create this really great experience for their clients. And then we're super excited to, as we're the feature is in pre-release right now, so you can actually go down to the Clio Lab and you can ask for it to be enabled for your accounts. It's available to all Clio Manage and Grow customers, so you need to have both Clio Manage and Grow, and you can get it enabled. We're going to get that released to all Clio Grow and Clio Manage customers as soon as possible, and the very next thing that we're working on right now is payments. One of the interesting things as we've started to work on Scheduler as part of our research is we discovered that about a quarter of the people that take initial consults online take payment for it as well, or would like to take payment for them. And so I think this is an amazing, simple way to, again, to create, like, take this initial experience and enrich it. And so this is what the experience is going to look like. So in that initial consultation screen that we saw where you add in all of the details, your clients can now enter in their payment information. And you can actually process this payment right in the moment when they're booking the appointment. And again, just stepping back a little bit, the normal flow of this would be sending out those emails, figuring out the dates, then sending them some type of a bill or an invoice, getting them to pay, like this really prolonged interaction. And we're collapsing that all down in this one really, really seamless experience. Here we go. Awesome. Great. So today we talked about a whole bunch of different features. We talked about outstanding balances, our Clio Scheduler, NonBillable Time, our firm dashboards, our new mobile app. And you saw we've really consciously invested in these three different tiers, these three pillars. How can we get you to be as productive as you can? How can we get your firm to be as performant as it could be? And how can we help you deliver these great client experiences? But this is not the only thing that we've been doing over the last little while. There's actually hundreds of improvements that we've launched over the last year that make the Clio experience, we think, a lot more valuable to you and a lot more easy to use. And one thing I'd love to call out is to really use this conference to get exposed to those. And I think talking to your peers, talking to us, going to the sessions that we have, like learn about these new features. Like one thing that we've learned from a lot of our customers, or we've heard from a lot of our customers, is you build these workflows and how you use Clio. Like this is just kind of the way you do it and you get comfortable with it. I think this conference is such a good opportunity to see what else is out there, what are other things we can help you with, and maybe even some new tips and tricks on how to make your practice run even smoother. So with that, we have a bunch of different Clio University tracks going on. This is one example specifically on billing and payments. We have these 3 amazing sessions that help you get exposed to more of the features in Clio. There's a bunch of sessions that focus specifically on some of our new features, and then a whole bunch of refreshers or reminders on some of our old features as well, or some of that core foundational functionality that we have. So make sure to open up the app, find the different areas that you're interested in, and really use these sessions to learn even more and get exposed to more of Clio.
And then lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about the Clio Lab in conclusion. I know Jesse introduced what that is this morning, and we talked about how we really like to work with our customers to build the product. Like that, for us, that's the forefront of the things that we value as a company, something I'm super passionate about as well. So the Clio Lab is just through the vendor exhibit area. It's at the back there. And that's where you're going to actually find all the people that built these features. So you're going to find most of the product management team, a lot of the design team. And these are folks that are just really anxious to hear your input on the features that we're talking about, as well as other parts of the product. To share a really quick anecdote, the firm performance dashboard somewhat sprung out of a conversation I had in the lab last year. I was talking to a firm that talked about how reliant they are on Clio for data and some things they were doing to try to get that data out and try to measure some of the KPI, just like the ones that we showed. And when he started walking me through how difficult that was for him, that really presented itself as this opportunity, like a challenge that the customers are facing, where there was something we could do that could be impactful. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us to learn more. Our customers every year seem like they get really excited and engaging with us. Something we're doing in the lab this year is these very quick lightning demos. So there'll be little 15-minute sessions. We're going to try to show you some of the things you might not know about how to use the product, showcase some of the new capabilities we're unveiling, and then hopefully spur some of that conversation. Maybe you see a demo of something that we've built recently, and you might have some feedback from the way that you see it in the demo that ties back to the way that you work specifically, and we'd love to hear that. That's going to be really meaningful and impactful for us. This is exactly what our team looks like. This is Sarah from my team. She's a product manager. And I love this photo because this wasn't posed. This is just what she looks like when she talks to customers. So come and meet us. Like, we genuinely will be so excited to hear your feedback and to work with you and learn more about how you use the product. And it's just one of the most valuable things. Like, the next 2 days, we're going to learn so much that'll help shape the next year for us. Just to wrap up, we really appreciate you coming to ClioCon. We really appreciate the feedback that we know you're going to give us about some of these capabilities. Please find us. Find us on the floor, find us in the lab, and we can point you to other folks that know even more about these features and give you even more in-depth walkthroughs and can listen to some of the more nuanced feedback that you have. But we really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this session, and look forward to talking to you more over the course of the conference. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Awesome.